Totally Football Show. Today, Premier League Match Day 6. From the pool party at the Palace, whose form will take a dip, to Newcastle versus Arsenal, to Villa versus Cottagers, the domicile derby, we look ahead to all the weekend's games and back on the big midweek action. Nottingham Forest making their return to Europe away at Betis, and in the Carabao Cup, a Wolves win, Ekitike trouble, and Brighton being brilliant. All that and more in this Totally Football Show. Thursday, the 25th of September. And it's a Totally Football Show for you. Who's on it today? Well, for a start, there's Natalie Gedra of Sky Sports.
Hello.
Hi, Natalie.
Hi.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you too, Jimbo.
Also here, and it's nice to see them as well, Charlie Eccleshare.
Hello.
All right. And Duncan Alexander.
Bonjour.
Hi, Duncan. You've had a haircut.
Not that recently.
Okay, then.
In my life, yeah, definitely.
What a busy week. Obviously, we've got Premier League Match Day 6 looming, but a busy midweek as well of Cup action with the Europa League and the League Cup. One of the fixtures of which, Natalie, I know you enjoy England's unique football culture. Did you notice that on Wednesday there was a totally unique fixture in the English football landscape?
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Port Vale against Arsenal,
Okay.
which is, Duncan,
The only two teams not named after a place.
in the entire Football League.
Yeah,
And
some
Premier
people
League.
will say Arsenal is sort of named after the Woolwich Arsenal,
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
but it's not a place. It's more. It's not a thing.
But
Isn't
that
it?
is true. It was named after it. It was a location originally, wasn't it? They didn't name it after the Arsenal because they were big fans of buildings with lots of weapons.
Well, I think they were. I think that was the.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wasn't it because they all worked there or something?
Yeah, probably. But you know,
It's not like, I don't know, Atalanta, which is named after a goddess rather than, say, something else. Yeah.
than
yeah.
Stoke. Yeah, but all right,
Yeah.
Port Vale. Gary,
What about Port Vale, though? Because that's one of the long mysteries. Why Port Vale?
No one knows. They're from Burslem, which is a bit of Stoke. So yeah, very Vale Park, known as the Wembley of the North, back in the day.
Was it? Even though it's not in the north?
Well, it depends where you are, doesn't it?
Well,
If you're in Bromsgrove, it's north.
I reckon if you leave Stoke with a heavy heart and head onto the motorway, you will see signs for the north if you turn left. So I don't think Stoke is in the north. But anyway, there you go. In Brazil, you've got loads of teams that are not called after, like Corinthians.
Yes, like Corinthians, which
Yeah.
is named over Corinthians casuals from here.
Oh, nice, yeah.
Yeah.
Any others? Should I say loads?
No, Palmeiras. You have loads. I was actually trying to remember other teams.
Flamengo, though, is an area, so it's not
Flamengo
like
is a club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's also an area, Flamengo, or not?
Yes, it is in
Okay,
Rio.
fine.
So Flamengo, Fluminense, Botafogo, they're all areas.
All areas.
Yes. Vasco da Gama is not an area.
It's a man,
Yes, it is a man.
an intrepid explorer.
Yes,
All
yes.
right.
So yeah, I have plenty of examples. I find that very intriguing.
I do too.
Yeah.
I do too. Of course, if you want teams that are not named after places, I think the Eredivisie is where you want to go for Hercules and Go Ahead Eagles and that kind of thing.
That sounds like fun.
Doesn't it though?
Yeah.
Doesn't it though? More creativity in team names. Natalie, you're going to be heading to a new ground this weekend, sort of Monday. That's
yeah,
right.
on Monday. Yeah, for Everton, West Ham. Love a new ground.
Yeah, Hill
Yeah.
Dickinson.
Yes, Hill
meant
Dickinson.
to be nice. What was the last new ground you went to?
Brand new ground.
Well, it doesn't have to be new, but it was new to you.
Oh yes, no. So yeah, it's like going to an amusement park for me because it's a whole new experience. Each one has their own character, especially here in England.
Right.
So Carabao Cup, I do plenty of Carabao Cup. That gives me
Oh, Cleethorpes. You went to Cleethorpes,
yes,
Yeah.
yes, Grimsby Town.
Is it Blundell Park?
Yes.
Blundell Park,
yes.
right.
And I did Bromley Ipswich on round one as well.
Really?
That was it's always a great experience.
I went to Bromley for round 2. They played Wickham, and
Such a good ground.
yeah, but you go past chickens and animals. to
Yes.
get there,
There's
yeah.
a little farm on the way from the, I call it a main road, but it's pretty much
Suburban
back street.
Southeast
yeah.
London.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm always amazed with the quality of the pitch. Every time I post anything on social medias from like the lower divisions here in England, I get tons of texts from Brazilians saying, I cannot believe the quality of the pitch.
Really?
It's something England should
groundsman in the
take.
world.
It was interesting
Yeah.
because they showed yesterday when Port Vale were playing Arsenal. It's a carpet of a pitch, and but they showed nostalgia. Last time they played here in '98, and it was the classic kind of FA Cup on what looked like a bit of a bog of a pitch. And how times have changed.
So what's happened there? Just money? Or?
There was a few articles on The Athletic about it, but there was a bit of a revolution in British groundsmanship about 10, 12 years ago. And so much so that they're now headhunted by clubs around the world because they're so good.
So back in the, I say 90s, maybe early noughties, I remember interviewing the guy who'd been brought into San Siro to try and rescue their pitch, which had been a real issue for ever since they put the extra bit on it for 1990. So they had an English bloke that they'd flown out and basically now, like a big signing, big groundsman signing.
Unveiled.
Yeah, with a mower.
Yeah,
with this ride-on mower.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think blending sort of, I think it's like 20% plastic with real grass and all that.
Oh, really?
Sort of,
so a lot of these pitches, these carpets are actually...
Yeah, because it gives the robustness, but also you get the actual grass. So.
Well, drainage has improved a lot as well, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Because that was always a big issue.
Drainage.
It is something you should take proud of.
Okay.
You should be proud of,
One of our
definitely.
great
No, because if you watch first division of the National League in Brazil, you see a few pitches that you go like, I cannot believe this is the first division,
Love to stay and chat about drainage, but we got Premier League match day 6 to look forward to. Quite a mixed bag of fixtures in that. And before any of that, let's get into what happened on top of these glorious pitches midweek. League Cup, first of all. This midweek saw the third round completed, plus the draw for the last 16 among the headlines. Emil Heskey's two sons playing for City, that's Jayden and Reagan, in their 2-0 win at Huddersfield. Wolves are getting a rare win and knocking out Everton. Both reached the last 16. Brighton scored 6 goals away for the second straight game in this competition. 4 of them were for Diego Gomez. That was in their 6-0 victory at Barnsley on Tuesday. Anybody see this? Did you see Diego Gomez's goals?
I saw the goals. Yes, I saw the goals.
Second one and the third one.
The second one was really nice. The third one from the long distance, he hits the ball flying. Such power.
Yeah.
Yes, a poker of goals.
A poker.
Un poker de goles.
Absolutely. And in Italian,
Spanish,
I don't think in English there's a word for it, scoring 4 goals.
There isn't.
A fourfer. No, there isn't.
Crikey. And 5?
Yeah.
A fiver.
Because in Spanish is re-poker of goals.
Really?
Yeah, in Spanish.
Okay.
And they use it. They
wow,
really
that's
use it.
incredible
Yes.
stuff, yeah.
They
Right.
really use it. Like hat-trick is so popular. Why can't we make poker of goals?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Brighton, anyway, go into the last 16 where they'll face Arsenal, who won 2-0 away on that lovely pitch at Port Vale. Eberechi Eze got his first goal for Arsenal. And then Trossard got the second. And Max Dowman, how did he play? Charlie, you were watching this?
I saw this. Yes, Dowman. I mean, it was incredible, the build-up that Dowman was given. I mean, honestly, it was as if, like, Arsenal were about to put on sort of a peak Leo Messi or something. And obviously, he's 15 and there's a huge amount of hype around him. Yeah, he was pretty good. He kept it pretty simple. He played one really, really good first-time pass, which actually... It kind of made you realise how rarely you see that with Arsenal. It was one of those. It comes to him. It's quite risky in some ways, in the sense that you might easily just overhit it and lose the ball. But he catches it perfectly first time and plays in Gyökeres, who is 1-on-1, has a shot. The defender comes across and makes the tackle. He was good. I mean, I would say, other than that, didn't do anything massively spectacular, but very positive. I mean, and was constantly looking for the ball. And meant that Saka could have half an hour off, which was probably a relief.
I can't remember who it was in central defence, but overhit a pass to him quite early after he'd come on, and he sort of turned around and berated him. It was like, yeah, fair play. That's good for a 15-year-old. So.
Yeah, I mean, kind of crazy to be playing at 15, and there's maybe a moral question about whether 15-year-olds should be able to play.
Do you think?
Well, it's funny. I remember I was watching the game where Nwaneri came on at 15 with my wife, who's a social worker, child protection, and I was kind of like, isn't this cool? A 15-year-old's playing. She was kind of like, that's really effed up. Like, what if he makes a big mistake, and what will he then be exposed to? This guy's a child. And I was kind of like, yeah, but what a left foot though, right? So yeah, ever since that, I have felt a little bit uncomfortable about a 15-year-old is a child, and you are exposing them to a huge amount. I mean, that said, compared to being like a child film star or something like that, it's
That's
probably
true.
favourable. Like you're in a network, a system, you've got a lot of supportive people around you. But yeah, I think it is definitely a question to be asked or a conversation to be had.
Talking about youngsters, talented youngsters, Miles Lewis Kelly's back heel to Aze's goal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did
it
he
was
touch it?
lovely. I want to believe that he did. You don't think he did?
I watched it a few times. I don't know.
The intent was there anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
It served its purpose.
Yeah,
It's
it
an
did.
existential
It
assist.
bamboozled the defender.
Arsenal going through to the last 16 where they'll take on Brighton. Charlie, you also watched Spurs in their 3-0 win against Doncaster, which featured quite a surprising opening goal.
Yes, the bicycle or sort of overhead kick from Palhinha. Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't like as overheads, bicycles go. It wasn't the kind of most... I think it's been slightly over, it wasn't like a sort of flying acrobatic one. It was more a kind of, it was very impressive, but it was more a kind of, not to take anything away from him, but just like, you might hear that and look it up and be like expecting, one of those great bicycle kicks.
I did look it up and I was impressed.
You were? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was a bit more hooky than maybe you
Yeah,
want.
but it's Palhinha.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
I think that's the surprising factor. We didn't know he had it in
Yeah, you're
his
used
locker.
to. Yeah, he wasn't tackling people into the goal.
It was quite similar to. Do you remember Alan Shearer's one against Belgium in 1999, Stadium of Light?
Oh, yeah.
They are overhead kicks, but they're sort of just men sitting down and kicking the ball behind them more than kind of Hugo Sanchez. and
No,
his-
we
and
need
his
a new
pomp.
name for that as well.
But he was playing centre back as well. So
Was he?
Yeah,
I mean,
that worked
yeah.
well.
yeah. I mean, they did a lot of long throws. I mean, it felt a little bit because this game was so uncompetitive that they were just sort of practicing their set pieces, which are obviously really important to Thomas Frank.
Increasingly.
And long throws. I mean, obviously Arsenal being in Stoke adjacent would have brought back some memories for them of being, so bullied by the long throws of Rory Delap. But they did face a few actually from Port Vale, but largely managed to deal with them. And Arsenal themselves have started using long throws.
Everybody's doing it.
They're really
I myself
yeah.
went at home.
I've started doing it, put stuff in the bin. Just, you've got to go with the zeitgeist sometimes.
You certainly have. Spurs are going to face the holders, Newcastle, in the last 16. These matches will be played in the week starting the 27th of October, in about a month's time anyway. Also, Liverpool beat Southampton 2-1. Wasn't the easiest of games for Arne Slot's side. Southampton were very lively at the start, almost took the lead. But then, almost immediately after Will Still's outfit had missed a chance, Alexander Isak scored his first goal for Liverpool. And the second came from... He was replaced at half-time by Ekitike, who scored late on and then took his shirt off and held it up so the crowd could see his name. It was that he then subsequently got a yellow card for that, as you do, and he'd already picked up one, so he's now been sent off and will miss this weekend's game away at Crystal Palace. Is it away at Crystal Palace or home to Crystal? Away at Crystal Palace, which is quite big, no? Yeah. The fact... Was there a particular reason why in the Carabao Cup he took his shirt off and pointed to his name? Was it... It wasn't because Isak had scored, was it?
I don't know, but
Loves the Carabao Cup.
Arne
Always
Slot
dreamt of
was
scoring.
great because he was like, okay, if there's Champions League final and it's the 87th minute and you dribble past three people and put it in the top corner, do that. But it's the Carabao Cup. What on earth are you doing?
He also
No,
said... You're sorry, Natalie.
Yeah, no, I was impressed with what he said because he said, if I went past three players and put it on the top corner, then maybe you can say, oh, this is all about me. But if I scored a goal like he did tonight, I would turn to Chiesa and say, it's all about you, Federico. Great assist, great run, and I didn't have to do a lot. Maybe that's me being old school.
Or then maybe then Chiesa turns around to Slot and says, why didn't you put me in the Champions League squad? So it can go on. But it was funny because Frimpong ran up to him as well. I was like, what are you doing? Put your shirt back on. You're in big trouble. Like when your mate sees the teacher coming, it's like, what are you doing?
But he doesn't usually do that, and Isak had just scored.
Maybe he's just really into the whole Will Still meme thing, and was like, for him, scoring against the Will Still team was...
What's the Will Still meme?
Well, when Will Still was forging his career in France,
right.
there was a kind of... People would be like, have you heard of this sort of English Belgian guy that's making his way in France? And so many people said it that it became like a kind of, have you heard this thing? Yeah.
Ekitike, who will not be featuring for Liverpool this weekend against Palace. Liverpool do go through to the last 16 where they've drawn Palace.
They just play Palace again and again and again.
Like,
Wow.
Will be the third time in
Yeah, Community Shield, no?
months? Yeah, 2 months.
We'll talk about that Premier League
Played
game
them last day
later
of the
on.
season as well.
Yes.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's quite the series.
What else from the draw? Let's see. Newcastle Spurs, Swansea Man City, Arsenal Brighton, Liverpool Palace, Grimsby went through last week. They're going to be hosting Brentford. Wrexham, who've also made it through, they drew Cardiff. It's going to be an all-Welsh affair there. Cardiff, who knocked out Burnley midweek. Wrexham, who put poor old Reading out 2-0. They're the Dragons? Wrexham? Dragons? Yeah. They're in the fourth round for the first time since 1977. Fact fans. Wolves will be playing Chelsea, who are world champions, but went behind to Lincoln of League One. And a really shaky display from their keeper. No, the reserve Jorgensen, because Robert Sanchez was suspended for this. And, one other game, which we haven't mentioned yet, Duncan. Wigan-Wycombe.
Wigan-Wycombe, yeah. The homophone Classico. They're 2 wins out of 2 for Wycombe under a new manager, so it's all fine. And everything's
Excellent.
good. And then they drew Fulham in the next round.
How do you feel about that?
It would have been better away, I think. Like a nice, southwest London walk through Bishop's Park.
Right.
But
How's the walk to Wycombe's ground?
less.
Bucolic.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of trees at Wycombe's
by the way.
ground.
How do you say bucolic in Portuguese?
Bucolico.
I see.
That's even better, to be fair. Wycombe do probably have the most bucolic ground in the league, but the walk there through an industrial estate perhaps less so. But looking at the overall draw, I'm gonna say that's the worst combination of fixtures you could get from the teams that are there. I don't like nothing. You could have had Arsenal Spurs. I mean, I guess Wrexham Cardiff is as close as you get to like a oof. But most of those games are a bit like
Newcastle Tottenham is,
I was going to say,
reasonably
that's,
interesting.
Yeah, that's a good one.
but I know there's not a standout. But then does that mean then
Arsenal,
the quarters
yeah.
and semis are going to be
delicious. Yeah,
free Christmas treat, that quarter-final of the Carabao?
one of the
Yeah.
best weeks of the season. I reckon.
Last 16 of the Carabao Cup.
No, the
Sorry.
the quarterfinals just before
Yeah.
Christmas.
Very nice. Now, that was the Carabao Cup, clearly. But also going on this midweek were some early games from the Europa League, first round of the league phase. There'll be more games tonight, including Rangers. They're up against Genk. Aston Villa hosting Bologna as well. Aston Villa having a rough time of it at the moment. But already in action were various sides. Celtic, who drew 1-1 away to Svenna Zvezda. Kelechi Iheanacho opening the scoring for Celtic. Marko Arnautovic for Red Star. I did not know that he was
very
there.
2015 Premier League coded score sheet.
And Roma went to Nice, and with Sir Jim Ratcliffe watching morosely from the stands, beat the Riviera side 2-1, which means Gasperini's now had 4 wins in 5 matches in charge of the Giallorossi. Well done to them. Oh, did you see? I don't know if you saw the goals. Tsimikas, on loan from Liverpool, made his first start, and the second goal is an absolute gem. It's a very Premier League goal, actually, because he's bombed up the wing and he curls a delicious cross in, which Gianluca Mancini just meets first time and lashes in. Charlie will be going, ooh, that is nice, very, very shortly as his video player loads up. The other game, which I think most people are looking out for, took place in Seville and saw Real Betis host Nottingham Forest, playing their first European fixture in 29 years. Natalie, you watched this?
Yes, it was fun.
Yeah.
Fun time, yeah. First half, 13 shots from Forest, 5 on target, loads going on, really in the front foot. Real Betis scored first, and then Igor Jesus scored twice. But then halftime, Betis had 3 changes, and Forest, Ange goes and takes off Douglas Luiz, who was the one holding midfielder, and for Delane Bakwa, who's a winger. And then you
Right.
think, okay, this is good. This is Ange ball. We're here for it.
Right.
But the game completely changes, you know. Ange, after the match, he said that he never really felt like they were a proper threat because they didn't create a lot of big chances, Real Betis. But like that momentum of being the front foot, creating a lot of chances, it completely disappeared. And then in the end, Anthony scored.
Well, yeah, because it had been Betis chance after Betis chance.
Yeah, and in the end, Ange was questioned about the change, and I can understand that he has to manage minutes, Douglas Luiz especially, and he apparently had a hamstring problem, but still, it really changed the dynamic of the game. If you look at it, a point against Real Betis is a good point. Against Real Betis away is a good point. But it was just a weird second half.
Right. Some people kind of calling this game a microcosm of Spurs last season under Ange. The first half a frenzy of attacking football. The second half very much all petering out while the opposition rain shots in.
Well, with a hamstring injury as well. I mean, that was a sort of...
Cherry on the...
Yeah, that was very much a staple of his time and his early time at Celtic as well.
We should say it's a lovely goal from Anthony as well, the eventual equaliser.
It's a good finish, yeah. I mean, and he celebrates in a very humble fashion, your compatriot, Natalie.
No, let's talk about the other compatriot then, Igor Jesus.
So he was
Yes.
never a prolific goal scorer for Botafogo, no?
Yeah, no, he scored a lot for them. But it's a funny story, James, because he starts as a pro in Brazil, plays for 1 year, plays for Curitiba for 1 year, and then he's off to Dubai, and he plays in Dubai for 4 years, which is very weird if you think of a 20-year-old. You know, it's usually the other way around. But then last year he comes back to Brazil completely out of the radar, and he starts scoring goals. He wins the league with Botafogo. He wins Libertadores with Botafogo, and then he scores against PSG at the Club World Cup. He gets the move to Forest. He gets called up for the national team. All of this in the space of a year and a half for a guy that not so long ago was playing in Dubai. So it's
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is a funny story. He's a strong physical guy. Elliot Anderson was mentioning that he's always in the right places, but I think tactically he can still improve a few things in his game, and this is something that we already saw when he was playing Botafogo, but Botafogo fans obviously really, really liked him. And Chris Wood started on the bench.
Right.
So that is big. And it is understandable. He's 33 and Igor Jesus is 24. So it's only natural that they start looking for options, you know, in terms of rotation. But it's good for Forest fans and yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Good point, as you say, away to Real Betis, who finished 6th in the Liga last season. A brilliant form under Manuel Pellegrini. One other bit of bad news for Forest, though, as they continue to chase their first win under Ange Postecoglou, was Nikola Milenkovic going off injured right at the end. Any word on how serious that is?
Yeah, apparently it's not so serious.
Okay.
So that's the first thing Ange said. But, you know, and Murilo
Again,
wasn't
just
playing.
a slight pinch of salt. His sort of instant assessments of injuries didn't always prove to be the most accurate over time.
Premier League. Saturday lunchtime, Manchester United will be visiting Brentford. They lost 4-3 there last season. In fact, United haven't won away from home anywhere since March. We'll see if they can do it Saturday lunchtime. At 3 o'clock, the league's 2 unbeaten sides go at it. Liverpool, rare opportunity to take on Crystal Palace. Liverpool, you'll recall, 5 points clear. Palace currently in 5th spot. Chelsea will be hosting Brighton. This is all the 3 o'clock games. Leeds, their excellent home record. They're actually yet to concede at Ellen Road this season. We'll get a test from the visit of Bournemouth. And City will play host to Burnley. Burnley's last 10 visits to the Etihad has seen them lose 10 times with an aggregate score of 40 goals to 3. Tea time, it's Forest Sunderland, Ange's home debut at the City Ground. And then at 8 o'clock on Saturday, the increasingly popular time slot will see Spurs take on Wolves. Sunday at 2 o'clock, Crisis Club, Aston Villa hosts Fulham. At 4:30, Arsenal are at Newcastle. And then on Monday night, it's the person you dumped, now all loved up with somebody else, Classico, as David Moyes' Everton face very much not David Moyes' anymore, West Ham. where supposedly Graham Potter's got two games to save his job. West Ham in the bottom three right now, alongside Wolves and Aston Villa. What, apart from long throws and teams passing less and goalkeepers sending it, can we expect from this weekend?
Just a word on long throws.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, because we haven't had enough of that, right?
Yeah.
No, because I was at Brentford Fulham. Yes, and now Brentford's playing Man United. And I thought it was an interesting insight because Fulham really managed to stop the long throws from Brentford and they just kept pushing.
How?
And
How did they do it?
Yes. So both Alexi Iwobi and Marco Silva spoke about it after the match, and they said they practiced throughout the week. Not necessarily the long throws, but they practice a lot of second balls. Because with the long throws, you don't know the trajectory of the ball, and you don't really know like the position of the of the players. So you put a lot of effort on the second balls.
Okay.
And that really worked. So if Man United is listening, maybe they're they're doing it, and I think it will be interesting to see how teams will deal with this throughout the season.
I mean, Man United have been vulnerable to set pieces, so this will be interesting to see. You'd imagine they would be testing them a lot. I mean, it is a weird that long throws it's a strange one because it's obviously it has these negative connotations, and I do think
Does it have negative? I'm really excited by the return.
Well, I think the whole Stoke thing, it's seen as quite rudimentary, and because it's very popular at lower levels of the game. If you play Sunday League, if a team's attacking you and they've got they're probably going to hurl it in, and which obviously is more hoping for the best.
Well, it feels like now it's almost an equalizer, not an equalizer, but it's a leveler in the sense that you have teams with enormous resources who buy these incredibly gifted technical players, but if you can get someone who can lob a ball a really long way, you've got a chance of...
Sure.
But
I think what's interesting is the fact that it's even the teams who've spent a lot of money themselves who are doing it. That, you think a team like Arsenal or whoever, I mean, when they played PSG in the Champions League semi-final, they had a lot of joy with long throws early on in that game in the second leg. PSG then got a bit wise to it. And I think that is a bit the thing with it, is like, I think there's a limited amount of time, for some teams anyway, unless they're really expert at it, that it really works. Because you should be able to defend them. Like Natty says with the trajectory.
Long throw, in case you're curious, is defined as a throw of 20 metres or more, which arrives in the opposition box.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between teams. I think some throw it in, some actually, like Brentford, do it quite cleverly and have specific routines. And it's kind of like... the NFL-ification of football is continuing apace. Like special teams, and every season people are finding little marginal gains.
Do you remember Liverpool hired the throwing coach, and that
Thomas
caused
Gronemark.
Yeah, and that caused this big culture war.
There was the whole don't know how to take a throw-in.
Exactly.
Although, as we saw with Calafiori the other day, that some players don't know how to take a throw-in and need a little reminder.
There's an excellent piece by Opta analyst David Seagar on PremierLeague.com where he breaks down the various kind of tactical shifts and the numbers behind them. Long throws per game are more than double from last season, so this is a real shift. Admittedly, a small sample size. They're up almost 4 times from 5 years ago. West Ham are the only team in the Premier League not to have attempted a long throw into the box yet this season. Brentford lead the way with 23. That's pretty busy. Other trends which David Seagar identifies, and I think a lot of people have, passing, which is at a 15-year low, the amount of passing that teams are doing in the Premier League. Long goal kicks are on the rise. Percentage has gone up. Almost 50% of goal kicks now end in the opposition half. So that's quite a shift.
The game hasn't gone, it's come back. This is what a lot of people did. We had a couple of years ago people bemoaning the fact that this sort of football, which was prevalent in the 90s and 2000s, had gone forever. But it never goes forever because...
But I do think those throw numbers will plateau a bit. I think once defensive teams get wise to it, I think we'll see less of it.
Oh, okay.
But how much variety can you put into it? Because with corners, for example, there's a lot of things you can do with corners. Maybe we're just at the start of the rebirth of long throw-ins because they're going to find out new ways to make it trickier, like it happened with corners.
Bring back the somersault throw approach.
Yeah.
But
there is
forward roll.
There is something as well for a team like what Liverpool, the way they're able to, especially at Anfield, that momentum they keep up with and this is actually what Ange always wanted to do was, the ball's always in play. You're knackering defenders out because they're getting no rest. Long throws do stem momentum a little bit, which I think works well if you're a team maybe like Brentford where you're not necessarily going to have all of the ball. If you are if you're a team like a Liverpool or a Man City or an Arsenal and you're playing a defensive team at home, constantly taking long throw, it's quite a momentum staller and a vibe killer.
Well, Arsenal...
Even we saw it against City a little bit on Sunday.
But Arsenal have been, at the vanguard of throws quite a lot in recent seasons. They have that one where Odegaard kind of makes a run along the touchline and they angle it over the top of the defence. Because obviously you can't be offside from a throw-in, so that's quite useful.
Hector Bellerin was a revolutionary in his foul throws.
3 in a game,
yeah.
What was that?
He just couldn't really take a throw. But then said he's like, I've been doing this all my life, in his sort of like Spanish Cockney hybrid way to a linesman who's like, you can't throw it like that. That said, players are generally allowed to do foul throws at Premier League level, which I think is great because it's just not... Yeah.
Frankly, who cares?
It just otherwise encourages hurling it, which is what you get at amateur level, because if you take a short one, you'll be pinged.
Do you think it's good for the international audience that English football has returned to its core product and big men up front and people lobbing the ball?
Fighting over scrap.
Yeah.
I'm not sure because I think a lot of people relate Premier League to a different type of football now, of course.
Really?
Yes. If you think about the expansion of Premier League internationally and you think about, you're focusing on the last 10, 15 years, more or less, and when things just escalated to the Guardiola side of football, So yeah, it is a switch, but it's interesting.
The clash of the two unbeaten teams in the Premier League, Crystal Palace hosting Liverpool, Saturday at 3:00. The only two teams in the Premier League who are yet to go behind in a game this season. Palace, of course, on that incredible 17-game unbeaten run, which has featured not only the Community Shield victory on penalties over Liverpool, but also the FA Cup win over Man City. And one or two issues for Liverpool, like no Hugo Ekitike. Should Liverpool's rivals get their hopes up for this game?
I think so.
Yeah?
You know why? Because I think they have a very underrated defensive line in the Premier League. Their back three. There's a lot of talk about Marguerite, I know, but like Chris Richards been brilliant. Lacroix, he's very consistent, They're just a good fit. They're three defenders who are different from one another, and they complement each other. And we have to consider as well that they lost Chalobah midway through last season. So they were able to rebuild this in their own structure on the back, using that back three. And this is where we need to give credit to Oliver Glasner and what he's been doing at Crystal Palace, because he's made this side a team that really runs and sprints and shows a lot of energy and that can play big teams, can outplay big teams tactically, especially. They've had the better of Man City, they've had the better of Liverpool. So there is a lot of credit that we need to give to Glasner and to Palace. So yeah, I think they can have their hopes up.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like quite a big one in the sense that obviously Liverpool have won all their games and like there aren't that many games that you'd circle as like a potential banana skin. I do think this is definitely a tricky one. Like if they go and make light of this one, then I think that strikes a bit of a...
Have they made light of any fixtures?
Well, no, they haven't. I mean, they've all been hard work at this point, but they have a 5-point lead. Yeah, they have a 5-point lead, which is, it's very. I think it's only a few times anyone's had a 5-point lead this early.
Since the 3 points for a win rule came in 1981, which great moment in history. Only two teams have had a 5-point lead after 5 games. City,
did they both go on to win the title?
They did not.
Didn't.
City in 15-16 did not. They came fourth. And Liverpool in 2019-20 did win the league, but project restart. So if you want some more stats, actually,
I do.
Liverpool are only the 14th team to start a Premier League season with 5 or more wins in a row, and only 4 of the previous 13 went on to win the league. So
good Lord.
Starting with lots of wins looks good, but deep down is bad.
Right.
So they don't they don't feel convincing, do they? Really?
They don't, it's just like what I was saying last week. It's that classic thing of like, but winning when you're not playing well is the sign of a good team, or it's you're going to get found
you're
out.
papering
eventually.
over crap.
Exactly, and we're going to find out soon.
They're not at their best, but when they're not at their best, they're still producing. Like the first half against Everton was really good, so they're still producing brilliant moments with their midfield options and their forward options, and so and you have like Szoboszlai and Gravenberg playing a really good season. So it's just
and they've won 5 games in a row without really using the most expensive player in British football history. So there's reason to be positive as well, but definitely one that I would be watching were it available on UK television. 3 p.m. Saturday. What are Liverpool's rivals going to be up to? Well, Man City at the same time will be hosting Burnley. I mentioned their remarkable record against them. Arsenal, meantime, are at Newcastle. One thing from midweek and the Carabao Cup that we didn't mention for Liverpool was the sight of Giovanni Leone going off, stretchered off, and apparently a torn ACL, so likely to be a lengthy absence for that new signing. A real shame.
Can I just say on that as well? I mean, that is one of the elements about Liverpool I do find fascinating. I mean, until Leone got that injury, they had a completely fit squad. And I mean, last year their injury record was amazing. And I'm really, really interested to know the extent to which that is revolutionary Arne Slot practices. Right. And if it is, then, oh my God, he's going to have a good career, because in football right now, that feels like, honestly, one of the biggest factors. Or if it's a little bit, that was quite fortunate. I mean, Salah started every Premier League game last season.
Wow.
That's kind of amazing. When you're looking at, you look at their 2 big rivals, Arsenal and City. I mean, Arsenal have lost a player to injury pretty much every game, mid-game this season, sometimes more than one.
So it's not rotation that's keeping them.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It's incredible alchemy.
If you think about how you manage training, for example, what I've always heard from Manchester City, for example, is that they get a lot of time off because they really, it's their methodology. They believe that they should have a lot of time off. They get like 2 days off in a row, and we really need to find out what are they doing. What are they doing?
Because if they have a similar record to what they had last season, they just will win the league, I'm pretty sure, because their rivals won't. With the volume of games that teams are playing, and obviously City coming off the Club World Cup as well.
Yeah. City are also 8 points back now. Arsenal, who are along with Spurs and Bournemouth, 5 points behind Liverpool. What are they up to this weekend? City, sorry, Natalie.
Yeah, and talking about City, we're talking about rotation. I'm interested to see which is going to be the starting 11, because they played because they played the same starting 11 for 3 matches in a row, and of course they rotated now for the Carabao Cup as expected. But against Burnley, I mean, they did pretty well at home. They made it hard for Liverpool. Of course, we're talking about Liverpool making it hard for themselves, but that is that is what happened.
They came close at Old Trafford as well.
Yeah, they did. So,
but their record against Man City away, as mentioned, is
not inspiring.
Not inspiring.
Yeah, that's extraordinary number of. I mean, to be averaging and conceding 4 goals over 10 games. That's
Watford-esque.
Yeah,
that's Man City. Burnley is also a 3:00 game on Saturday. Arsenal, that's the 4:30 Sunday match. Their trip to St James's to take on Newcastle. Newcastle, who, I'm not sure we mentioned this actually, had a big win midweek in the Carabao Cup. They were at home to Bradford, 4-1. They triumphed with the braces from Joelinton and William Osula.
And a great goal from Andy Cook as a consolation.
Was it?
Brilliant goal, yeah.
Yeah. Was it?
Which he properly celebrated, which I was pleased about.
Yeah.
There was no attempt to be like, oh, it's a consolation, I can't celebrate. It's like, you've scored a great goal against a Premier League team.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
So far in the league, for Newcastle, it hasn't really clicked. But do you think this is the game where it all comes together? The big defensive numbers, but maybe with a bit more shot conversion? Or do you fancy Arsenal to...
Well, you mentioned shot conversion, and Anthony Gordon's back for this game after his suspension. He's averaging 6.7 shots per 90, which is the most.
Wow.
But with a conversion rate of 0%, which sort of sums up.
Right.
Obviously, Newcastle are the first team in Premier League history to draw their first 3 away games 0-0 as well. It's not quite clicking, but
Could use the word obviously in that sentence.
Well, yeah, right.
Goes without
Obvious
saying.
to me. But I think this game will have them.
They love this
excited,
fixture.
yes.
They really do. And I mentioned
We
before.
love
Newcastle.
this fixture. It's
I mean,
such
it's
a good
it's
fixture.
all. I mean, this has been hugely dramatic, and this is. And Newcastle fans, hear me out. But I mentioned before about Arsenal having those nightmares against Stoke back in the kind of late noughties and 2010s. This is, I think, the closest you can get to that in modern football with how things have changed. But
Right.
Arsenal have gone there consistently and been roughed up, for want of a better phrase. Like Newcastle are an incredibly physical team, and they've been excellent against Arsenal in the home games. They've won 4 out of the last 5 against Arsenal at St James's Park. 1 of those was in the Cup, but 3 of those in the league. Arsenal didn't score in any of those games they lost. And it's tended to follow a pretty similar pattern where Newcastle, in the last few anyway, they've got a lead, and then once they've got a lead, really gone into lockdown mode, and Arsenal have done next to nothing, really struggled against a team that are brilliant defending a lead. And then the crowd get up and they get so encouraged by it, they start to relish the physical challenge, and there's just no...
Dan Burn does a tackle.
Dan Burn does a tackle, and and I was thinking actually about Dan Burn. The fact that Noni Madueke's out, I think, is really significant. Because then they can't just do like, okay, well, you've handled Saka, now have half an hour of Noni Madueke. I think that's where Arsenal are better now.
Put it
but
this
they're
way,
missing
I
players.
wouldn't be bringing on Max Dowman in this game.
Oh my God, I was thinking that Dowman against Dan Burn would be quite something to see.
It would. Madueke, who came off at halftime against Man City, and we now know that's a knee injury, which they're talking about 2 months.
Yeah,
it's going to
couple
take
months.
to sort that out. Natalie, sorry.
Yeah, no, and with Newcastle and obviously struggling with scoring goals, and it's going to take some... I thought it was interesting what Eddie Howe said recently about them evolving into a different team in
Saudi Arabia.
with a different when they attack with a different emphasis. I think that's interesting because obviously we talk about
Like
Isaac
Saudi
and we talk about Isaac and the goals that the amount of goals he scored, but what I always found interesting about Isaac is the way that he moved and the way that he read spaces and how much of a handful he was without the ball as well, while Volta made. He's a completely different player in this sense. So it is going to take time for them to get used to this type of striker. And I can't understand why they're struggling a little bit to score with him. So
When is Vissa going to be available?
Not sure we know.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of ongoing. But yeah, obviously that would make a difference.
I really enjoy when fixtures just become something out of nowhere. And then, like Charlie was saying, this really has. I mean, there was obviously all the stuff you mentioned, but also the 3-incident VAR decision.
The disgrace.
When it went out of play. What was it? Out of play,
Push,
and then offside. Yeah.
Also, one of the great linguistic escapes when Arteta called it a disgrace in various sentences, and then claimed that he was desgracia in Spanish means a bit more like a
misfortune.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like
But I mean, fair enough.
what an
Fair
amazing claim, and it was accepted.
Right. And of course, you got Czech Tiote and that.
Yes,
Yeah.
the only time team's been 4 up in a
goals.
Premier League game and not 1. isn't it?
Wow.
Can I say, the big dilemma I think that Arteta has here is, does he fight fire with fire and do this very unpopular, really physical midfield thing? Or does he do what he did the only time they've won against Newcastle in recent times and say, actually, we're going to out-football you? And he played Jorginho, this would have been May 23. They won 2-0, played really well, and sort of played the game more on their terms. And again, I remember back in the Stoke day, talking to the Stoke days when Arsenal would always go and struggle away at Stoke. I was talking to a Stoke fan, he was like, the mistake Arsenal make is trying to match us physically. Like, don't do that. Like, we're really vulnerable to pace and trickery. Like, you would beat us if you did that. Whereas Wenger got quite spooked and was like, well, we've been so roughed up. And I think that's tended to happen as well with Arteta against Newcastle. So does he go Marino or does he outcraft
I don't know
them?
if it's an indication that Merino, he started the last 2 games in a row. He started as a striker in the Cup and in the midfield, obviously, last weekend.
He started 4 games in a row now.
Yeah.
Or 5, going back to Liverpool.
I would love that to be on the signpost as you came into Stoke. We are vulnerable to pace and trickery. Be good.
That's Arsenal's trip to Newcastle, which will be 4:30 on Sunday. And as ever, we'll be doing our weekend roundup on Daily Football Show straight after that. which will be ready for you on Monday morning. But if you want to watch us doing it, voyeur, then you can do that on YouTube. I think around about 7, in and around 7 o'clock Sunday evening, we'll be live streaming our recording of that show. Brentford Man United is Saturday lunchtime game. We mentioned this a little bit. Is it going to be more rubbernecking or signs of recovery after Man United's impressive 2-1 win against 10-man Chelsea last weekend?
It is a sort of venue that kind of is a bit of a litmus test for United. Obviously, remember the 4-0 early in the Ten Hag, in the heat, and Ronaldo.
Here's a stat, Duncan. I don't know if you like these or not, but the only Man United manager to actually win at the G-Tech is
Ralph Rangnick.
Correct.
Don't tell Michael Cox.
Yeah. And Brentford, even though they're a very different outfit this time around, not least because Man United went and bought their best player, Brentford have done all right. They beat Aston Villa there, although asterisk Aston Villa. They also drew against Chelsea, although, another asterisk there. But Mbeumo, quick word on him. He's been United's most positive note for the season so far.
I think Source had more shots from inside the box than any player or something. And that was in amongst some other quite encouraging stats for United about posting high XG numbers and that sort of thing. I wondered how skewed that was by playing 10-man Chelsea for pretty much that whole game, but, I'm sure they'll take it.
United have not won an away fixture in the Premier League since March. All right. Well, that's the Saturday lunchtime. Aston Villa, who are in the bottom 3, are enjoying their worst start to a top-flight campaign in 61 years. Crikey. Situation was complicated at Villa Park on Monday with news that their president of football operations, a.k.a. the man who does all the signings, Monchi, had left the club all of a sudden.
Gonchi, more like.
That definitely works. Not sure what the background is on that. Is it a positive? Monchi's not covered himself in glory at some of his recent positions. Certainly he's not missed at all in the Italian capital, but yeah, it does speak, I guess, to the fact that there's unsettled times at Villa.
Yeah, that was big. Monchi leaving Villa was big. He worked with Unai in Sevilla when they had a different dynamic. It's a different structure in a different club. And it just wasn't effective. And it's funny because it wasn't so long ago that we were praising Villa for making this really good January window and with all these loans. But the truth is now we have kind of a sense of stagnation with Villa, with an aging squad, and they have signed players. They have spent a lot of money. I think it's 28 players they signed since Unai arrived at Villa in 2022, January 2022. So, of course, Monchi hasn't been there the whole time, but someone has to take accountability because they just had a very poor transfer window and they are not coping with PSR and all these rules that, they're bringing Roberto Labi, and he used to work for Real Sociedad. He brought Isaac to Real Sociedad to sell him to Newcastle afterwards, and he sold Zubimendi to Arsenal for a good amount of money. So we'll see what type of effect is going to be. But Monchi leaving was quite significant.
The aforementioned Mikel Merino as well. But I think he is very well thought of. Alabi, for what that's worth. But then, so was Monchi for a time.
I mean, it feels like Villa, obviously they went on a really good run at the end of last season, but then lost at United on the final day, which cost them Champions League spot, which obviously then impacts
what could have been.
And they kind of almost gambled to even get in that position because they had Asensio and Rashford on loan, which wasn't cheap. And it almost worked, but then it didn't quite, and it feels like they're very much spiralling at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it was Enrique said that it was Villa who gave them the hardest time in the Champions League last season, and they did very nearly in that half. That second half was crazy. That quarter final
had them absolutely pinned back.
They're in action this evening as we record Thursday night at home to Bologna, who they did beat 2-0 in the Champions League last season. They faced them this time in the Europa League. Fulham, meanwhile, who, unlike Aston Villa, are not down in 18th place, but are actually in 8th. You saw them last weekend against Brentford, Natalie.
They were very good.
Yeah.
Against Leeds, the match before that, they struggled to create a lot of chances, which did not happen against Brentford. They were in the front foot. We know how Fulham can be when they are in a good day. You know, they can be so organized. They can be hard to break, and they have Kevin now, which Fulham fans are very excited about. He hasn't started a match yet. He had minutes against Leeds and against Brentford, so there is this expectation of him starting a match because he's that type of energetic player who likes the 1v1s, and he just brings a different spark to a team that didn't make a lot of signings in the transfer window.
Right.
So it is very significant, but I can see Fulham making life hard for Aston. I can see Fulham in a good day. I can see Fulham making life hard for everyone because they can be extremely well organized and well drilled. It's down to Marco Silva. He needs a lot of credit for that. But yeah, should be good.
Saturday evening, meantime, we have another late game, and it's Spurs against Wolves. So Wolves are only the 6th team in Premier League history to lose the first 5 games of a campaign. I don't know how many teams have done it in the entire history of English top-flight football, Duncan. Do you know?
You'll have your Loughboroughs and your
Right.
Man Uniteds in the early 30s.
Really?
Very, very bad start. Yeah, but it's pretty bad.
Right. The record worst start for the Premier League is 7 defeats, which is held jointly by that Crystal Palace and Portsmouth. Wolves, you feel, have a good chance of making it at least to 6.
They've had some good wins against Spurs though, at Spurs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they've
They've won
done
4
quite
of their
well.
last 7 visits to Tottenham.
Yeah, there you
Good
go.
lord.
Like they for whatever reason they have put in some pretty good performances there.
And they did just knock out Everton in the Carabao Cup for what's that's worth.
Yeah, I mean you would think Spurs would be too strong, but I think I mentioned this last week that with Thomas Frank, I think what's going to be interesting is that I think they'll be far better against the strongest teams, like we saw them against Man City. They were brilliant. I think they might have a harder time in some of these home games against teams that want to sit deep and defend and ask them to unlock them. So,
Is that Wolves?
well, I guess we'll see. But I think they will surely, just off the back of the start they've made, they'll at least try and be defensive for the start.
Also interested to see if Xavi Simons is starting or where is he starting more precisely, because against Brighton he played as a 10 in the second half, and I like him there. I really like him
really
there.
good, yeah.
He was really
Jay
really
Harris
good.
was saying this on Sunday. He came back
Yeah.
from the game, and that was his big takeaway. He has to start, and he has to start number 10.
And if you look at the midfield options, if you have Palhinha and Bentancur is a very dense midfield, but you also have Pape Sarr, who's doing great this season. Bergvall, of course, and you have Simons, and Kulusevski is recovering from injury. So when he's back, he also likes to play as a 10. So there are a lot of good signs, a positive perspective for Spurs midfield in terms of creation.
Excellent. And up front, possibly your friend Richarlison.
Yes.
Wolves are his favourite opponent. He scored 6 times
Really?
against them. Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
you
Good
go.
luck to Rishi.
Yep.
Yeah, he started really well.
Yeah. Unlike Wolves, who are possibly heading for a record of opening run of defeats. We'll be talking, by the way, in this week's Totally Extra about the Premier League's worst team ever and who they really are. It's not who you think. Unless you think you've Derby, in which case, yeah, that's you nailed it. It's them.
I've just looked it up. Manchester United, 1930,
Oh, yeah.
31. They lost their first 12 games
No.
of the season. Yeah.
Wow.
Didn't win till November. I mean, even Ruben Amorim looks decent on that basis. So.
You should mention that for a bit of
Crikey.
context.
Yeah.
Excellent. Chelsea are taking on Brighton, a game which is going to take place almost exactly a year after their last meeting at Stamford Bridge, which was a very memorable match, a record-breaking game. Natalie.
Yes. Pick me.
Yeah.
I was doing that match. I think, oh God, I'm saying.
So you were there for that game?
Yeah, I was there for that game. I spoke to Cole Palmer.
The Cole
after
Palmer first half.
Yes, exactly. When he scored 4 goals. This is what made history, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No one's ever scored 4 goals.
4 goals in a first half.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, and it was kind of a game changer
poker.
for a poker of goals, yes. And after that game, Brighton decided to drop the lines a little bit. Fabian Hutzler spoke about it afterwards. That was that game that made him, okay, we're not going to play this way. We need to be a little bit more conservative. So it was an important changing point to Brighton as well.
Chelsea are not in terrific form right now. Had a bit of a scare against Lincoln midweek. They drew at Brentford. They lost to Bayern. They lost last weekend to Man United. They do get Robert Sanchez back, though. He only had a one-game suspension back from that red card, which is pretty good news given how Jorgensen's been looking between the post. Brighton,
whether
though,
players should be suspended for League Cup games from Premier League fans
feels wrong.
Yeah, it does feel a bit of
I
a
don't
loophole that exists. But
Brighton have only managed one win so far in their 5 league matches. So, yeah, neither of them on great runs.
I think that was the first and last time that Cole Palmer scored from a free kick.
In the first half last time against Brighton?
I'm trying to remember if he scored from a free kick after that. But I remember interviewing him afterwards and asking, like, oh, how much practice do you put into this? Because it was a perfect free kick. And he was like, no, no practice at all. I just rocked up.
How do you find him, Natalie? He's famously like doesn't give loads away as an interviewee. How do you find him?
Challenging to pick my words here.
Okay.
Yes, no. And
for Natalie, that's the equivalent for most people to being like, awful.
What's the challenge we call?
No, it's just that this interview, for example, you ask him that and he just gives you, oh no, I don't practice. I didn't practice at all. Silence. And then you're like, oh, okay, so you just decided, I just decided to go and take a shot and it worked.
Right.
And you're like, okay, where do I go from
You
that?
must at least get a lot of questions in, like, total questions.
Yeah, but a terrifying amount of questions.
Yes.
You're like, oh God, I've used up all 12 questions.
Exactly. No, every time I'm interviewing him, I'm like, okay, I need to prepare 15 questions for 3 minutes.
Right.
And then I go and then you just go one after the other. Otherwise, it's just going to be blank.
Which player was the nicest surprise?
The nicest surprise on a post-match? God. Well, I remember when Ronaldo was about to retire, phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Did you interview him?
Yes.
Nice.
He played for Corinthians,
Right.
but it was carnage. It was absolute carnage because in Brazil you could enter the pitch to do the interviews.
Right.
And it was just everyone, it was just elbows everywhere. I knocked out a camera guy once. Nice. Not proud of it, but it was a matter of survival.
Right.
I'm not a big person, as you can. So you can understand. And Ronaldo couldn't move.
Right.
So every post-match interview
because
with Ronaldo,
of the crowd or just generally?
because of the crowd. No, generally he was moving well.
Right, okay.
And so yeah, that was big. Adriano as well, when he was a good surprise. He was a really good surprise because I was working at a TV station that he didn't like. Because and he was right not to like them because they were very tough on him. They were very unfair to Adriano. And I remember asking him, could you give me a word? And he was like, are you from this TV station? I'm like, yes, I am. And he was like, I'm sorry, I don't speak to you, but nothing against you. So I thought this is the example I always give to players not being.
So he didn't speak to you?
No, but he you don't have to love it, but if you're nice enough about it, it's fine. And he was very respectful with everyone. This was Adriano, like in throughout his career. So yeah,
I'm not going to ask you who's the worst because you won't tell us.
I'd have to think about it, but
Okay,
no, I
there you
wouldn't.
Also this weekend I say other 2 games, there's actually 3 because I'd forgotten Monday night you got Everton against West Ham, which Natalie you're going along to.
Yes.
Graham Potter apparently will be making the journey as well, despite some doubts after last weekend's defeat. A lot of reports of West Ham contacting a variety of other exciting names, including Slaven Bilic and Nuno Espirito Santo. But latest word, Duncan, I'm not sure where the Athletic is on this, latest word is that the Hammers board are giving him the next 2 away games, Everton and Arsenal, and would then look to make a change in the next international break.
But no pressure.
No pressure. Yeah. That's kind of how it stands.
Yeah, I feel like it's pretty rare managers, once you know that they're down to like, you have 1 more shot or 2 more shots, I feel like they rarely then escape and go on to do well. I'm sure it does happen from time to time, but it also feels like if he's that close, I mean, how much
I
do they
guess
really believe in him?
Alex Ferguson was the most like that. Like, was so close to the axe many times and just about did all right in the end.
So who knows what glories might await.
Graham Potter's going to win 13 Premier League titles with West Ham. I'm not saying that.
Potter does have. I mean, West Ham beat Arsenal away last season, and Potter has a good record at the Emirates. So maybe
they won against Forest, didn't they? Precipitating a regime change there. Everton, with 1 or 2 issues of their own, they've now lost 2 on the bounce. Although
we should mention, Everton fans are particularly unhappy with the team that Moyes put out for that Wolves Carabao Cup game. And
right.
I have a very good friend who's an Everton fan, and he was very unhappy because, like, Everton, it's a trophy this Everton team could target. Why are they not trying to
never won the League Cup?
No, but they could easily, with the first team they've got, they could challenge to win.
And their league is probably going to be mid-table.
Yeah,
I mean they're not going to be.
Well, we went out the Carabao Cup early, so we came 9th instead of 11th.
I do get that. Natalie, I'd be curious to hear about the media facilities at Everton, given Goodison Park was always the sort of most cramped, especially for those of us with quite long legs. It was not roomy.
No, it was, definitely. But people were very warm and welcoming. They went out of their way to because they knew how.
That doesn't give you more space.
Yeah,
but yes,
exactly.
it softened the blow.
But they give you a metaphorical hug.
See if you can get any of the blue aioli that they're serving up.
Blue aioli?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. People thought it was ketchup at first, but it's not.
Right. Very little about blue aioli would point to it being a tomato-based condiment, but
it's blue. I mean, it's quite hard to discern, I imagine.
I suppose. Blue. All right, then. Nottingham Forest are up against Sunderland. That's a 5:30 game on Saturday, and could well be quite an interesting one. I mean, it's a Postecoglou team, so they're usually fairly lively, and it's the first time that Ange will be at home in his new role after 4 straight away games. And Sunderland have been a real story. Sunderland, how did you, when you were explaining them to a Brazilian audience with ESPN Brazil, how did you explain Sunderland to?
They are surprisingly popular because of the series Sunderland Until I Die.
Yeah.
Yes, that had really good traction in Brazil. So when they came back to the Premier League, there was a positive movement from international fans because of. Everyone loves an underdog, so
definitely. These are black cats, of course, but the term still applies. Forest have conceded 9 goals in 4 matches so far under Postecoglou. That's a lot.
Yeah,
but not for him, I guess.
It's good to see Granit Xhaka back in the Premier League. He's already got 2 assists for them in 5 games and 2 yellow cards. That's his standard ratio. So I mean, I think Sunderland are probably the sort of feel-good story of the season so far. I mean, you feel good with brackets. They spent over £200 million on new players, but still.
But we've been so teams coming up have done so badly the last couple of years that I think everyone's desperate, just even if it is off the back of spending a lot.
Yeah.
It is refreshing.
And also this weekend, there's a 3:00 game which you can't watch in the UK between Leeds and Bournemouth. Bournemouth, who sit 4th right now in the Premier League and will be bidding to become the first visiting team to score at Ellen Road this season. Leeds so strong at home. They haven't actually lost a game there in almost a year. Most of those fixtures, of course, in the Championship, but still. 100% winning record as well at home to Bournemouth in their history with 7 wins out of 7. That's very much 100%. Very good. That's a game taking place this weekend.
That's the word.
Right.
They're good. I think they are really good, Bournemouth.
I think we eulogise them most weeks, but by all means, let's heap a little bit more praise on the Iraola bandwagon.
They've got a chance. If we think top 5 again is Champions League, then I think Bournemouth have got a really good chance of finishing top 5. Yeah.
All right. Are they currently 3rd?
Currently 4th, but level on points with Arsenal and Spurs.
And this fixture leads physical, strong side, and Bournemouth also a physical side. Like running up and down and the pressing and everything. So
should be good.
Yeah,
should be good. Excellent. Well, that game and all the other ones will be the subject of our Totally Football show on Sunday evening. So do join us for that, either on Sunday evening or listen to the podcast on Monday. Before that, Saturday, there'll be a Totally Extra, which will feature Duncan and Charlie. And also Stuart James will be joining us for that as we explore a little bit some of the teams for whom the Premier League has not been so kind, and in particular, yes, that Derby County from 2007-2008. Excellent. Have a spin on that if you fancy. Have a great weekend in any case, and we'll catch up with you soon on the Totally Football Show. The Totally Football Show podcast is available 3 times a week, bringing you all the football news you could reasonably be expected to care about. We've got views, we've got stats, we've got analysis, we've got some of the best football writers around, and the whole thing is absolutely free. So have a listen on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or all the usual places by clicking on the link below.